Hello guys and welcome back, and yes, I'm at the bushcraft shelter that I made in a previous video. I wasn't planning on coming back, but my car is in the garage being serviced. We've walked back through the lanes to get home while it's being done, and the lanes past this woodland, so hey, I might as well just spend a quick hour and see what I can get done. So the method I've chosen is moss, where I'm going to stuff in all the cracks, and then I'm going to try and put a layer of bark on top. There is a tree just over yonder that has come down, and I should be able to salvage some bark from it. I did think about putting sheeting over it, biodegradable, but then again I did kind of rule against it because I realized this wasn't going to be a permanent location, a permanent camp. This is something that I've already said is going to literally biodegrade itself and go back to nature. So in the spirit of that, I'll keep everything as natural as I can, or from this area, so when it does collapse and biodegrade, there will be nothing, you know, taken or nothing brought into this area. It'll just go back to nature as it is. So yeah, I'm going to have my coffee, just a quick little cup of coffee. Then me and Bracken are going to go and source some moss. I have seen a patch not too far away, but I don't know if I'm going to cover the whole structure in moss or just pack out some of it, well, the gaps. So we'll have to play that by ear, as they say. So yeah, I'll drink this, get Bracken back on the lead attached to me, and then we'll move off and go and get this bark and moss. So this is one of the few patches of moss on this little bit of forest that I'm in at the moment. I will have to later on walk about 100 meters, maybe a bit more, to where the moss is actually growing. But for this little patch here, all I got to do is just put my fingers into the leaf litter, drag it back, and it's not really matted and made a raft covering the whole ground, so I can basically just scoop it up quite easy. But as I've already said, this moss here is not the best quality for what I'm looking to do. I'm going to have to go further into the forest, because where I am, the ground has no understory. It is, as you can see here, it's pretty much just pine needle leaf litter. Now I'm stuffing the holes at the top, and I'm going to fill every gap I can, but I'm also going to leave a bit that will overhang each side, because as with roofing or doing tiles, the overhang, I will feed the next piece coming up underneath it, right underneath the flap, so the water will run down and not have a gap to go in and then make its way down into the shelter. So I've tallied up all my resources around me, and it's very evident to me, to get the bark, I'm probably going to have to move to another tree or find another down tree where the bark is beginning to separate. And as I've described, I don't have a very ample supply of moss in this location. Now, if I go to the south facing part of this woodland, there's a lot of moss, but it is in excess of 150-200 meters, and it's a long traipse when you've got to carry each bag full back. And as you can see here, I'm actually pushing it into the gaps. As you can see, you can just start to see that there's no sunlight coming through, and it's doing its job. But also I'm leaving just enough of a flap where I can push the next piece up underneath. And you can see I'm just starting to get this to look like a bushcraft shelter now. But I am also already beginning to realise that it would have been better to have tried to build this shelter where my resources were readily available. Because of the lack of resources, what I've now chosen to do is actually use the moss not just to pack out, but to use it as kind of almost like turf, and like a turf roof, and I'm allowing it to overlap enough so the water will run down to the next piece of moss. And because I've got such a steep gradient to the actual side walls, the water shouldn't hang about, it should literally run off. So as you can see, just looking around here, there is very little vegetation on the ground till you start getting into the new growth where the clear cut has happened. But that has got too advanced to allow the moss to stay on the ground. But looking inside the shelter, you can see one side that hasn't been done, and you can see how the other side looks. And I think it's quite a good job been done there. And as you can see, it's at steep enough angle, I really do think that water will literally run straight off. Now, it does take some substantial time to do bushcraft shelters. I'm going to grab a coffee, but this is where having a tarp and just throwing up a tarp and basically making your home wherever you fancy is so appealing. But a bushcraft shelter does have its place in the outdoors, and hence why I'm doing one. So even if you don't put any money towards making a bushcraft shelter, as I've just stated, it is the time involved. And in some cases, time is worth more than money. And I've just seen quite a lot of people on outdoor channels, wild camping, bushcrafting, and those type of channels that have actually had their shelters vandalised, destroyed, interfered with, or just blatantly abused. And like I said, it may not be the money, but it's definitely the time you put into it. And time is something you can't get back. And that's probably why so many of them, when you see their videos, are quite heartbroken by their shelters being actually destroyed. So if you look at this side, you can quite clearly see I'm actually pushing up underneath the top handfuls of moss that I've stuffed into the cracks, and I think you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. But yes, that is yet again another bag. I lost count. I probably did 30 bagfuls, and I've had to walk for them. But I'm pushing it in on the front, but what you will see in a minute is me actually lift up a bit of moss, and I will stuff the next piece completely underneath it, allowing the excess piece to come down over and form the new almost tile. There you go, I've lifted it, I'm pushing it in, and the bit above it will just lap down on top of the bit that I'm pushing onto the actual framework. Once you get a rhythm, it's not too bad. But for me, it was collecting the raw material of moss. There you go. I've just lifted it up. I'm stuffing it underneath. And the top bit of moss will actually drape down over that bit I'm putting in at the moment. So I have a usable bushcraft shelter. And it's just that one step up from a survival shelter, but I'll be able to spend an overnighter in here myself, possibly Bracken with me, and I'm looking forward to it. I've yet to find the time to do it, but I will make it happen. I've invested the time and energy into making it. And yet again, another bag, and I'm actually beginning to pick up the last dregs of what of material I've actually got available to me. And as I move out into the direct sunlight, a lot of this moss does have grass interwoven with it. Now it's not too big a problem because the grass will die and dry and also create some waterproofing. But yeah, this is the last little stretch. I'm on the home straight, as they say, and I'm looking forward to it now because it is surprising how time disappears and goes away from you in the forest. So I will bring my kids down and let them have a play in and around this little shelter, and I'll do a cup of coffee with Jamie, and we'll while away a little bit of time in the forest with the kids here. But once I've finished with it and had a few wild camps and done a bit of bushcrafting, I hope it survives long enough for some other kids to come down and make use of it, particularly in the early part of the spring, and I hope it lasts into the summer. But yeah, I think you can agree it's looking quite inviting in there. For a shelter, it hasn't turned out too bad. It will definitely be waterproof due to the angles and the coverage of moss. I wouldn't say it's, torrential rain proof, but shower proof is more than adequate for the job. So I now have a bushcraft shelter, as I've said. I'm not going to enclose the front in, quite simply for the reasons I've already stated. And if I do need to cover it in, it will be with just a tarp. But yeah, thanks for coming along. And I suppose the next time you'll be seeing me in here, we'll be doing an overnighter. When that is in reality, I'm not too sure, because time is quite precious at the moment, but it will happen in the near future. So all that's left to be said is thanks for coming along. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys out on the trail. This is Andy from Hidden Valley Footpaths. Take care.